And hello to all my South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I am joined in studio by my team member, Mary Baker.
Hey Mel, it's been a
Hello.
long time since we've done a show solo dolo.
I know, yes. Sharon is off and preparing. She called in last week and let everybody know that she wasn't on the show because she's preparing for the wedding. So heading to Greece tomorrow.
Just in a
And
couple of days.
yeah,
Casey
yeah,
will be a married woman
yeah.
by I guess this time next Sunday.
Yeah, this time next Sunday we'll be a married woman. So we'll be. Oh, somebody's outside. Oh, well, that's okay. But yeah, so we've been sort of replaying our shows a lot. We've been doing. I know we have two time slots now every week, but we've been sort of mixing it up and doing one live and replaying the other for all of our great listeners out there.
I kind of like it because on the weekends, usually I'm not on the show and I get to listen to us while I'm out on the road.
Oh yeah,
So I either get to listen to a replay that we've done either
yeah.
tonight or you guys live, which is kind of fun for me.
Yeah, so my mom, of course, my watch is going off. My mom's listening, the number one listener out there.
We
Um,
need to get Liz a gift,
yeah, I know,
a
right?
prize.
We have to get her like a name badge or something. But
Talk Real
yeah,
Estate Roundtable's #1 fan.
yeah,
T-shirt.
we've been having a lot of great conversations here. We've had a lot of interactions with some of our listeners. So if you want to join in on the discussion tonight, you can call. I almost said Tim because that's who I've been saying on Saturdays. But we have George in the studio at WATD 781-837-4900 if you want to join in the discussion. We are live on just Sharon Costa McNamara right now, but once I get going here, I will start to share it everywhere. We've been sort of coming in on two wheels today. It's been a day. So, but tonight we actually will have a caller as well.
We'll have a surprise guest.
Yeah, we'll have a surprise
We won't
guest.
tell you who it is until
Yeah, we'll give you a hint.
they call in.
It's a lady. That's the hint. It's a lady. So
It's a
it could
lady
be
friend.
anybody because we've like pretty much only had women on the show recently. But she will be calling in later. But tonight we are going to be sort of giving a market update. We've been talking recently about open houses and showings and the rising interest rates and sort of offers and everything that you could possibly think of with real estate. But, we want to sort of package them all together for you and sort of give a market update. This was Mary's idea. So,
I'm in
Mary,
the thick of it.
Mary or Jesus, take the wheel for a moment because I have to go share our Facebook Live. So, go ahead,
So,
Mary.
the idea for tonight's show is we've been talking about it for a little bit. I mean, interest rates have been steadily rising since the beginning of January, even really before then. But really, kind of trying to figure out, we've been trying to future forecast as to where the market is going to go. Historically, when interest rates rise, property values do come down. But since we have such a ridiculous low inventory or amount of low inventory these days, a lot of us were predicting that we wouldn't really see those drastic price reductions. And we really aren't. So we aren't seeing in the marketplace that properties are, you know, losing their value or dropping very quickly as these interest rates have started to spike. But we are feeling a slowdown. So it's a little bit of a, I don't know, change in the air. So our team member Evis actually reached out to me maybe like 3 weeks ago, and she was like, I don't know, Mary, I feel like something's different. I feel like something is in the air. I was at open houses this weekend, and I can just feel a shift in the market. And that was about 3 weeks ago. And I'd have to agree, over the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing a shift.
Okay, so when you say shift, what do you mean?
So I would quantify it as like where we were at the beginning of the year. We had a very fast and furious. There were a lot of that recklessness happening from last year. Reckless offers, people waiving home inspection, crazy appraisal gap contingencies, and an exuberant amount of multiple offers on properties. Somewhere in the past, like 4-ish to 3-ish weeks, we've seen that kind of really quiet down. So where we were seeing, 20 offers on a property, we'll equate that to maybe now like 5. So that's the shift.
Yeah.
It's not that the price point has really shifted. It's that the amount of buyers that are out there and really making strong offers on these properties are lesser.
Yeah, so I did not talk to Evis about this, but when you had brought this up today about wanting to do the show on this topic, I obviously can only talk from personal experience or what agents tell me, but I agree with Evis in that sense that this past weekend I went to a lot of open houses that our agents were hosting, and they were a little slow. And you know what? They it had nothing to do with the houses were great. The
Yeah.
agents obviously are great. The price points were great. It, the weather was great. So we sort of expected that maybe everybody would be outside and enjoying the weather
Going
and
to the
whatever.
beach, maybe. Yeah.
And the open houses were a little bit slower, and just the number of showings that the listings had were a little bit lesser.
Yeah.
But and I even said this to you, and this is what I say to really everybody who says, oh, I only had 10 people come through, or I only got 3 offers. You only need one person.
Yeah.
You only need one buyer or buyers, set of buyers, to come in and put an offer on your house that
And
blows your
love the
socks
house.
off. That you don't need a million people walking through your door. You just need the right one.
So-
Sorry.
I was going to say that's actually a good point, because you asked me, like, what do I mean by shift, right? So the amount of buyers that are coming through has shifted. Doesn't necessarily mean that the offers still aren't really strong, because the buyers that are surviving these interest rates increases are the stronger buyers, are the really financially qualified buyers, or buyers that are just entering the marketplace, in my opinion. The ones that necessarily haven't been affected by what they were approved for 6 months ago with a 3.5 interest rate. Now, say it was 600,000. Now today at a 5.5, what they can afford is a lot less. So those buyers are the ones that I feel like are being the most affected.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm jumping ahead of myself to what I want to talk to our guest about. But it's also a shift in the mindset and or the reality for sellers.
Yeah.
Right? Because the expectation, because of how fast-paced the market has been, is I'm going to put my house on the market. I'm going to have 100 showings. I'm going to have to leave my house for multiple days. I'm not going to be able to stay there because it's going to be so crazy. And then I'm going to have 20 offers to I have 20 offers to review,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm going to pick from one of those amazing offers.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the pantomime is kind of shifting. It's changing a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not as fast-paced. It doesn't mean that the
Yep, we hear you. I'm just gonna let Mary finish her thought there for a second.
thank you. But so it's not necessarily that the buyers are any less better,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Mhm.
just they're fewer than we were seeing before.
Right.
And when you have 20 or 30 offers, you're still taking like the top pack of those
Yeah.
offers, right? You're taking the top 5 and trying to distinguish who's the best.
Well, what I said, I forget who it was. I talked to so many people today, I just don't even know anymore. But what I said the other day, somebody asked me, well, should I do an offer deadline? Should I do it for Monday? Should I do it for Tuesday? And I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? Like, if you've given people 5 days to see the property, now you're just dragging it out a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
So, what are you waiting for? Do Monday. They've had an opportunity to see the house. And on our last show, we were talking about, people who hold all their showings until the open house. And sometimes people only get one opportunity to see the house. But you know what? If you get, multiple opportunities to see the same house and you love it and you
Count
want to put
yourself
in an
lucky.
offer, count yourself lucky. Yeah.
Take the opportunity as a buyer.
I would I was gonna say I would move in, but I can't give that advice. I would take my time and not feel rushed, going through the house. So, but I say the what are you waiting for type of thing is because like the longer you wait, yeah, you might get more offers, but like what are they waiting for? Like if I feel like personally, if I loved a house, I would want to put my best foot forward right away.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to lose it.
I wouldn't want to lose the opportunity on that. So, I did talk to one of our agents yesterday. He received multiple offers. He said, there are other interests in the offers, but I have offers in hand that are really, really great, and my sellers want to know what they are. So I'm presenting them, and if they accept an offer, then we move on. Like, that's the process,
Yeah.
So what are you waiting for? But Mary, we do have somebody on the line, so why don't you give her a little shout out and introduce her?
So our special guest tonight is Jasmine Glasgow from Maritime Mortgage, from Team Maritime, and she is the best of the best. We call her our favorite, and she knows she is because I literally texted her this morning, and I said, hey, can you send me stats on all of this information so we can talk about it on the radio show tonight? And she goes, better yet, I'll call in. So, hey, Jazz. Haha. No, you don't. No, you don't.
So,
100%.
we're talking, and it's like what you guys see, and the people you're helping, watching them go. There's one set of clients you and I have together that just come into mind. I'm just like, oh, this little sport is so much more. How a year ago,
Oh, yeah.
that mental shift is so hard for people to realize that like we're just not where we were before, and it doesn't mean that we're in a bad spot now. And people are saying higher rates. Like let's add some perspective here.
Yeah.
When we were like a year before, so May of 2019, the average interest rate was 20% down. We're 4%, and we were doing refis like crazy at that time. We were like, oh my goodness, you have a 5%. Let's refi. Let's lower it down. No one's expecting rates to get as low as they did. So when they hit 3% as an average, or 3.08 May of 2020, and then they stayed that way for so long.
Yeah.
May of 2021.
We got spoiled.
0.16. We did, and I think it changes the perspective when that becomes your new normal. Then you're saying, "Oh my goodness, 5.5% is so high." When you take a step back, you go, it was 19.8% in '97. So
I can't even fathom. Oh, my gosh.
I wouldn't buy anything.
No.
But
Maybe a little tiki hut.
exactly.
Well-
This one tree with a teepee on it is mine.
Yeah.
It's all about affordability.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the biggest problem, is that payment shock. And the way I like to look at Sunrise at the best is when rates are kind of at their, we'll call it national and average low, because these are the published rates. Like Mortgage Me Daily does it pretty well, and it shows on average 70 credit score or above, 20% down payment or above. This is what people were generally applying for and nationally. 3% with a $2,500 a month payment will get you a house of about $593,000 roughly. We're going to round down here. And that same number, say today at 5%, gets you $466,000.
That's
We're getting into 5.5, which is what is kind of anticipated. If you Google right now mortgage interest rate, Google calculations say 6%. Mortgage Me Daily was 5.3, 7.8%. So we'll go 5.5. Gets you $440,000. So let's take a look at that. 3% shoppers said I could pay $2,500 a month. They were looking at houses between 575 and 600.
Yep.
To end up with a loan, 590-ish. Before splitting wars. So they were in that 600,000 range. And now they're looking for the same payment for houses at 440. So 441 a month. That is a
huge.
We're talking
$150,000.
$153 if we want to get even fancier. And you're talking about a loss of between 6% in purchasing power. So you're looking at
26%. That's insanity.
Yep, and so short. It happened so quickly.
Yeah.
So people who were, thinking, I can finally get into these houses, and we're watching the appreciation, which has been unprecedented, year over year, anyways. I mean, it was the break. So I can finally afford this house. It wasn't like
Yeah.
$750. Those people who are looking for 500, they're looking for 700. Everyone's switching up with the adjustment. But what
Mm.
happens, and what I'm seeing happen, is when it tips back down, those people who are like, I'm finally here, I can finally do it. I've got 3% saved, and I can afford this payment. It's still a little bit more than my rent, but I can make this happen. Those people are out of the market now, unless you get creative.
Yeah, and I think that's what so I wanted to talk a little bit about buyer morale. And you actually, I didn't even send you what I had wrote on our agenda, but you did exactly what I wanted you to do, was show what you could afford versus what you can afford now. Because that's where, so that $2,500 a month payment at 20% down at 3%, got you into like a 590, $600,000 house. Did you say what the payment would be now at your 5.5?
Yeah, so, and again, not my house, it's
Oh,
actually
but not you nationally. What's what we're
covered tax. So for a loan amount of 593, that got you about $2,500 a month payment. And today, a house, a loan amount of 440 gets you $2,500. So when we're talking about the shift in loan
Gotcha.
amount, obviously the purchase price plus down payment, etc. If you're just using $10,000 down across the board at 10,000 for these numbers, but 440,000 would be your new loan amount for the $2,500 payment, and that was what you were looking at, a 593 loan amount just a year ago.
mm, yeah, which
Actually, even worse is just 6 months ago. So even looking at shorter averages.
well, so that was like when I talk about buyer morale or where we're seeing these interest rates being or why it's having such an effect is because there's a whole group of buyers that are entering the market, and I don't think they don't have the sticker shock, right? Because they haven't experienced or they only know the interest rates to be what they currently are. Yeah, they might have been told that they were low at some point, they might have been watching, and seeing, 3%, but weren't in a position to buy at that point. But now they're entering the market, and it's kind of going to be, it is what it is, right? This is where the interest rates are now. What'd you say?
Sure, I've honestly found it's been people, the now buyers have been happy buyers. I feel
Yeah.
like they actually have a chance.
Oh, they do because what they what and this is the whole point. What the interest rates and why Melissa was saying like now is the time, like why wait, is because what it's doing is it's not pushing, it is pushing a demographic of buyer out of the marketplace currently, but it's actually allowing a lot better competition between buyers, if that makes sense, or like allowing buyers more opportunity, I should say, is better put.
I think it's the best way to put it. And with less competition, not, gosh, how do I say this sensitively? Not having that new wave of people who might have even prematurely. I've been talking to a lot of people that have had buyer's remorse. I had some people who purchased last summer already sell this year, and just wasn't the right neighborhood. It wasn't, a neighbor dispute with one person. It didn't fit the amount of kids that they thought that they had, and then they had two extra kids, and like it's all these changes that people who got in and rushed and like they had half a second to see the house. I mean, the person who I'm thinking of who just sold and they closed last July and they just sold their house and bought a different house at a higher interest rate, mind you, a payment much higher than they were at before for a slightly bigger loan amount. They had they only saw the house one time before they were under contract, and it was at that time where you can only have so many people, so there was a line out the door. There was literally people there with their agents and a home inspector, and they won out against 30 or 40 other bids by waiving absolutely everything and closing in 2.5 weeks. And it was madness and a rush, and they had no idea really if any of their furniture fit. There wasn't even time to get back to measurements. And so people are now getting into open houses without 70 cars down the street, and they're being able to take time. I even had to spoke to someone who saw a property twice, and I was like, wait, the same house? You saw it more than once? And they're like, yeah, no, we went back a different day, and it was still there, and it was under contract. And like, that's a whole new world than we were in last summer. It's an amazing time if you have the right perspective, if you're focused on the payment. It's an amazing time to get into a tough market. We're seeing more inventory come in. We're in this shift. The people who are priced out or shopped out of the market,
Mhm.
They're in there with some stability, and they're excited, and they're looking, and we're back. I'm starting to feel like pre-COVID, where it was just, we're talking to a seller's agent, we're figuring out what works for both people. Not everyone's rushing to close with 3 weeks to get on to the next one, because people are taking a little bit more time to do their due diligence and research and call the town to find out if the permits were pulled. Things that I feel like there hasn't been an opportunity to do in such a fast-paced market. So it's like a Monday afternoon deadline now doesn't feel so crazy, because the house comes on the following week. You can do your due diligence beforehand, and people are
Yeah.
spend some time at the property. I don't know. For me, that for me has resulted in a lot calmer, like, set of buyers, like people who are feeling financially responsible, and they're not feeling like the back's against the wall. And it helps us from an advising standpoint to be like, you're making a good call. It fits your budget, and you're happy, and you're entering into a neighborhood that you really like. This is going to be a property that's going to appreciate, no matter if it's 3%, if it's 10%, 15%. It averages out over time, because you're paying down your mortgage. So it's a good transition, and it's led to some really happy buyers, which has been a nice change of pace for us anyway.
Yeah, I have two things to say about that. So first, before I lose my thought on this one, is I agree with you. Like, the buyer's mindset is changed, but I also think it's the agent's mindsets that are changed too, because the buyers aren't the ones calling the listing agent to ask these questions. It's the agent, and hopefully they have a buyer's agent if they're not going directly to the listing agent. But it's the buyer's agents that are reaching out and doing their due diligence for their client, because they've been in it for so long, probably working with these clients for so long. And we have talked about, instead of putting in 5 offers, you might be putting in 10 offers
Yeah.
instead. But I just had this conversation with Kristen Howlett. She's been on the show. She's a full-time real estate agent here at Boston Connect Real Estate. And, she reached out to an agent that I had previously worked with, and said, hey, I'm reaching out to this agent. She has a listing and so-and-so, like, and I was like, she's a great agent. She'll be on top of everything. She's a great agent. And, that agent appreciated her calling and asking the sort of quote unquote right questions.
Yeah.
So shout out to Kristen for always asking the right questions, because she was doing her due diligence for her client. And in this market, it's super important, because unfortunately, there are some listings that go on, and you only have an opportunity to see it once. But when you find those that you can see multiple times, or do a private showing and do the open house, you get this great opportunity to do your due diligence more than once.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that was my first thought about that. And then whenever I think of last year and I think of last summer, I think of our shining stars, what I'm really going to call it. We did have a property over on Herringbrook in Pembroke, and it's the one we've talked about this many times, and we got 40 offers on it. I believe we put it on for $679, right? And it ended up selling for $850, and that wasn't even the highest price that that Sharon and Mary got out of those 40 offers. So I think about last summer and going through the 40, ish offers with everything, and I'm curious to know how many of those 40 buyers could qualify for a loan for that price,
Today?
at these today for that interest rate, with the interest rates now,
Or if those 40 buyers are even in a house at
Yeah.
this point, because certainly I know Sam had a buyer that he was working with for over 2 years. So you think about that, there are buyers that are staying in the marketplace for a lot longer, both because they're really taking their time trying to find the right one, but also because it's super super competitive out there, and low inventory makes it a little bit more difficult, right? You have multiple buyers competing for the same property. So it's a huge shift in between what was going on at this time last year. Like, I was in a completely different space this time last year than I am this year. Like, I'm getting offers accepted. It's a completely different world. Last year, I was pulling my hair out, actually begging the market to stop. If you remember, we were doing shows saying, like, please, listing agents, just give buyers a chance. And now we're sitting here saying, buyers, this is your chance,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We don't want to take up too much of your time, Jasmine. We really do appreciate you calling in. Is there any sort of last minute like tips, tricks, thoughts, ideas? I don't know. Anything else? Can you think of anything else?
Any market
Any other
updates,
words?
word predictions?
Well, things have been pretty stable, which has been really nice. I mean, we can expect or we can anticipate a turnaround in rates if we hit the recession, but we really don't want to be in a recessionary period just to save a little bit on the interest. So just remember, you probably don't know the note rate on your credit card. You probably don't know the note rate on your student loans or on your car note.
That's a good point.
You know the payment. If you're hyper focused on the wrong thing, or on the devastating part of the story, you're only going to read it as a tragedy. So focus on the positive things that are going on. Focus on the payment. If you can afford it, if you're comfortable, you can buy the important things that you need in life. Don't rule out entering the market. Don't rule out putting an offer in because of something you can't control. Getting the property as you feel a good and fair price, something that's going to appreciate, is something that is fixed. But getting an interest rate is something that can change later with a refi. So focus on the positive, and just remember we're in a good position if you're looking at it from the right lens. And that's it. Those are my words.
Those are your words. Your
I'm going
words
to
of
quote you
wisdom.
on that. Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Jasmine.
Of course, give out your contact information if anybody wants to get in touch with you. Your team.
Always reach the team. Yes, a big on team. We're the Maritime family, Team Maritime, and our email is team, TEAM, @maritimeloan.com. And I haven't regretted giving out my cell yet, so we'll continue doing that. It's 774-240-4667. Hey, have a great rest of the show, ladies.
Thanks
you.
so much, Jasmine. You're listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable on 95.9 WATD. All right. I feel like we're having a great topic tonight. A little bit of a market update, don't you think?
I do.
Oh.
Interesting.
All right. Well, that's great.
I actually haven't heard that in a very long time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
No, we
it's like
are-
a busy tone.
it is a great topic, and I think something that Jasmine had mentioned is, and we actually, I don't know if Jasmine caught this at the very top of our show, we were talking about it. It is just a mental shift, right? And so the interest rates have been really hard for the buyers that have been in the marketplace for a long time to kind of grasp and not necessarily understand, but accept, right? I mean, I know if we're talking, I think she said $190,000 worth of purchase, no, $150,000 worth of purchasing power.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, and I hate to put it this way, but the caliber of a house that you're looking at $590 is a lot different potentially, and even in a different area than the one that you're looking at $440.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been hard from a morale perspective. Like, I know I have buyers that have been, and actually Jasmine is working with these guys and their team is working with them. And it's hard. It's really tough, and it's very discouraging. Those are the buyers that I'm seeing affected by it. It's not the buyers that are coming in right now. And I think sellers' expectations are going to shift a little bit with it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you talk about the sellers, how do you think that this is affecting the sellers?
I think I don't think necessarily, but from a financial perspective, there will be certain listings, and I actually pulled up, how many price adjustments have we been seeing over the past month? And really, before we would have, 6 months ago, we would have said, put your house on the market, don't do anything to it, it's going to sell. It's going to sell. You don't have to worry about anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in that marketplace anymore. At the beginning of the year, we probably still were a little bit, but that has slowly shifted. So now it is, you want to be back to putting your best foot forward all of the time and really, really looking at the comps, and paying attention to what the market is doing. Because if we're seeing I just did Plymouth County, but over the past month, there have been 170 properties that have been listed and taken price adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
For Plymouth County, we only have currently on market 416 properties. So that's a lot, 170 of those 416,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are sellers that are overshooting,
Mm-hmm.
based off of what their a marketplace that was 2 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, especially buyers who have been in the market for a while, they've seen a lot of properties. So they've sort of gotten an idea of what they really do want and what they really do like. So if they come across a property that might be a little bit, I'd hate to say overpriced, but if they, yeah, I guess overpriced, obviously you just said that there's price adjustments out there, they're gonna say, oh, well, it doesn't have an updated this, it doesn't have an updated that, or they're gonna come up with something that maybe it doesn't fit their needs.
Well, it's back to the basics, right? We say the value of a house. So the value of a house is always what a buyer is willing to pay for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But how you're pricing a property, your price has to match your condition and your location. Those are your three factors. So if you're not getting people through the door, you have to look at, is it my price, is it my condition, or is it my location?
Yeah.
Something is not lining up there, and that's where you're seeing, I think, these price adjustments is sellers were kind of anticipating this incredibly fast spring that we saw last year and that we saw at the beginning of the year. And I actually think this might be a good thing from an inventory perspective. I think sellers who had been kind of holding off maybe and saying, oh, I'm going to wait a couple more months, they might see that the market is slowing down a little bit, or shifting, I should say, not really slowing down, but shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And they might say, oh crap, I'm missing the boat, I got to put my house on the market.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. If I was even in the mindset of selling right now, I would sell right now.
Even if you had nowhere to go.
If I was making an incredible amount of equity from the house, yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the comps are still there. The comps are still there, and properties are still selling, and they are still selling for, a really, really good price. A lot of sellers have a lot of equity in these houses. And if you're of the mindset that you don't want to be in the state anymore, or you want to change, or, that this isn't going to be, you're not going to be in your current home for the next year or two,
Mm-hmm.
why not take advantage of it right now?
Right. Exactly.
And then you can figure out your next steps.
Yeah, I agree. Do you want to get into more of your stats? I know you like stats. Were there other stats that you wanted to?
I was really more concerned with the price adjustments because that's always indicative, right, of what the market is kind of telling you.
Yeah.
I think, we are actually historically, so where we keep on saying, we're low inventory. In all reality, we actually have more properties on market this quarter in comparison to last year. So if we have 416 properties on market in all of Plymouth County right now, there were only 381 last year. So we actually have more than we did last year, which could be it could be a reason that we're not seeing this crazy competitive market because buyers have a little bit more to choose from, but it's a combination, right?
Yeah.
There's a little bit more inventory. The interest rates have risen. And I think there is a certain group of buyers that have kind of just taken a step back and or don't want to play the game anymore. Like they don't want to compromise on not having a home inspection. I actually spoke with Imperial Inspection Services earlier today. I was just getting some information about different inspections that they're still doing. And I asked, I was like, so how have you been seeing an uptick in home inspections? Or are you guys seeing a downturn? She goes, actually, we've gotten a burst over the past week and a half. And I go, that's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
That means properties are going under agreement, buyers are having home inspections, and that's what you want, ideally.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, a lot of the offers that I've seen recently, they all have home inspections, or they have like the verbiage of, for informational purposes only. But I mean, if you don't like the information, then wouldn't you walk away?
We should have a whole show, and I know we did one last year on home inspections and all the different nuances with them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are actually so many different ways that people are getting creative with home inspection language today.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to kind of dissect.
Yeah. And are you getting creative with your?
No, I'm encouraging of home inspections. I know we did actually the Saturday show that I did do with Sharon's cousin's daughter Alicia and her boyfriend Kyle. They did waive their home inspection, and Sharon looked at me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, really?" But it is a newer construction townhouse. I mean, if there was ever going to be a property, newer construction is usually your way to go,
Yeah.
right? And a townhouse, a lot of things on the exterior are taken care of within the condo docs. So
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of like a different scenario, but we have also said that you can do home inspections on new construction.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if it's not an established, well-known builder, you might want to. So but you can do a home inspection on a new build. I know that might sound sort of weird, and you shouldn't have to, but it's not just to find what's wrong. It's also to know how the house operates,
yeah.
especially if you've never owned a home or operated a home before. It's for information.
that's
So
literally what it is. It's
I
all.
just heard your stomach growl or
No,
something.
it was my.
Was,
It was
was
my.
that your
Do
throat?
you ever have a frog in your throat?
Yeah.
I think I drink too much
because
bubbly.
You have bubbly. You have to drink water.
And I keep so I've been really bad. I digress. I haven't been wearing my Invisalign, but nobody told my dentist. And now
Well, you're gonna waste money if you don't.
okay. I'm trying. I'm trying to get better. But I've fallen asleep without it in a couple of times. Anyway, so I'm lisping a lot more and I'm swallowing.
Mm. Okay,
Not a fun
so
feeling.
If you hear anything weird, it's just Mary.
My bad, guys.
Yeah, we only have probably about 10 minutes left in the show, so I want to sort of go back to open houses and showings. I feel like, uh, you know, I don't always know where every single agent is that we have. And again, if you want to join in on a conversation, 781-837-4900. We do have a couple more minutes left, and we are live on Facebook. So if you're shy and don't want to call into George and talk to us, that's fine. You can comment on Facebook. But, I obviously don't know where everybody is at all times. But, I feel, how do you feel with the amount of showings? I'm not talking about how many houses are on the market, but have you seen a change in how many private showings you've had with your buyers?
I have both. So both from a buyer perspective and a listing perspective. I actually feel like I'm going out with less buyers currently. Not necessarily because I guess I think a certain buyer has kind of, there's less for them to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were seeing a lot more properties, but here's the thing, like, property values are still increasing, but what they can afford for what they wanted is getting less and less and less. So where I used to go out and see 10 houses with one group, now we're seeing 5
Yeah.
or maybe 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting a lot more selective about the offers that they're putting in because their budget isn't expanding. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think there's been
Well, just to go off of what you just said, like their budget isn't expanding, although it's taking them longer to find a house because the interest rates are rising. They're not able to save, like they're not able to save more X amount of dollars.
yeah, it's not like they can increase their down payment.
They're not increasing that. They're going to be borrowing more, or they won't be able to afford to borrow more in order to.
Yeah,
be
their
in that
only hope
price
at that
again.
point is to actually find ways to save money now and increase their down payment
Mm-hmm.
if they can.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's I mean that's all right. But I do think, like, even I went to an open house this past weekend with buyers. Actually, I went to several. So the first open house that we went to, there was, the open house had been going on for an hour maybe, and by the time I got there were maybe like 3 or 4 groups. And so, I mean, it was hot. It was an antique house. Still kind of uncomfortable, not like huge square footage. You're moving around people. That's kind of what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Second open house I went to, there was one other group in the house. Third open house I went to, not a soul. Just us.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and that never happened 6 months ago. Everything had a line around the corner, or you were maneuvering around people to be able to see these properties.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing for me in the open houses that I went to. One of them, there were 2 groups there. I know I figured out that one of them was a neighbor, so looky Lou. And another one that I went to, nobody was there when I first got there, but a couple groups came in after, and yeah, a group when I was there. So yeah, it's interesting, but they all got offers, and they all are accepting offers today. So, like I said in the beginning of the show, is like you don't need 500 groups coming through your house. You just need the right one. And I think patience is a virtue. And if you have a little bit of patience and confidence in your agent, it'll all work out.
It's funny. Evis actually said to me earlier today, she goes, Mary, so she actually, congratulations to her because she just got some buyer clients under agreement in Woburn. And it's beautiful, beautiful house. It's perfect for them. They are super, super excited. And I know she has been really communicating very well with this agent. She's really excited. They did have multiple offers, but she was only competing against one other offer. And it was that negotiation between her and the agent to say, like, all right, I like these terms. Like, this offer might be higher, but I like this about you. And there was communication going back and forth. And she didn't look at me, but she told me, she goes, I feel like I'm going to like this market a lot more.
Yeah.
This market is the market where buyers, have a say a little bit, and she was like, I just feel amazing. Like, I don't feel like I've led them down a bad road or a potential bad decision, or that they're going to have any regrets, I'm happy. I'm excited. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to shift into a more normalized, more steady market than we've seen over the past year and a half.
Yeah. Well, is that your bold prediction for the rest of the year? I mean, we're halfway done.
I can't believe that.
We're halfway done with this
Memorial
year.
Day weekend is this weekend.
I know. Yeah.
Pool's getting open on Thursday.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, just in time for the rain this weekend, maybe.
I know.
But yeah, so that's sort of. Do you have any sort of last minute thoughts? I know we have a couple minutes left, but I sort of said what my perspective is. I only know what I am a part of. So I know when I'm present and in people's houses, and I can see. I helped Michelle Fay, who's also a realtor here, full time. At Boston Connect Real Estate. She got multiple offers on her listing. I was helping her yesterday. Helping her yesterday sort of navigate through those. Interesting verbiage. So we do have to do a show about that. I sort of even had to read it a couple times, and I was like, yeah, I would question that.
Yeah.
I would get clarification because I could see it going either way. So she did, because she's one of the best, and so I think they accepted one of the offers today. But yeah, I can sort of see the shift only from my perspective. I oversee the company and can sort of see where everybody's moving and grooving. But yeah, any final thoughts, Mary?
I think for buyers and sellers, if we can just keep a perspective of what the marketplace is currently. And I mean, Jasmine had put it perfectly about, it's all about perspective and what lens you're looking through. I think stay focused on where you're at and not where we were, because we can't go backwards. So you can't have any regrets about, what you woulda, shoulda, coulda done. Or, I wish I had sold 6 months ago. Well, you didn't, so you can't. Or I wish I bought 6 months ago. Well, you didn't, so you can't. So let's focus on today, now, the present, and keep perspective. We'll be good.
Keep perspective. Well, I was going to say thanks so much for joining me, but it's your show too. So, yeah. So
thanks so much for having me, Mel.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And we will catch you this weekend or next week or whatever. We'll surprise you. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.